Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this new video in the series of Agentic AI engineering. Today, we're starting with the core components, and the first core component, which is intent understanding. And the idea here is all about acting with purpose. So, in general generative AI systems, they don't actually know what they're doing. So, yeah, they are great in responding to inputs, they generate outputs, they optimize local patterns, they look really intelligent, but they don't have a purpose. And that's where agentic system um, kind of overcomes this barrier because they act over time, they pursue objectives, and they operate under multiple constraints, and that's what distinguish actually agentic AI from general generative systems, and that's where the idea of intent starts or comes as the beginning of agentic AI. So in agentic systems, autonomy, which is a core idea in agency, as we have seen in the previous videos, it doesn't start actually with tools. It doesn't come from the memory, and it certainly doesn't come from better prompts or from clever prompting and so on. It actually comes from intent. And before an agent can reason, before it can remember, before it can decide what to do next, what action to choose, it must answer a much deeper question, and which is what I'm actually trying to achieve here. So this is the core questions that the agent should start with, and because without it, reasoning and memory have no direction. And this video is totally about decomposing this question. So let's start to clarify a little bit one idea what intent is not, because there's some misunderstanding in general about this. Intent is not the user prompt. Let's be clear on this, and because the user prompt is just an observation. Intent is not the raw natural language that we type or we talk to the agent with, and it's not a single instruction: do this or do that. The prompt by itself is just one single observation, as I said, and the intent is an internal inference that comes from that observation, and or that observation contributes to. Uh, if we treat intent as text, we will be designing systems that are reactive and not agents at all. And we are totally outside the agentic ecosystem. Here is an example. Let's consider this request. You prompt any of those generative AI systems, agents, whatever you call them. Let's say ChatGPT. Can you help me analyze this data set? On the surface, this is a very simple request, right? Just analyzing a data set. But this request doesn't specify actually analyze how, for what purpose, for whom, who's the target audience, under what constraints, what is the definition of success there, how the agent or ChatGPT can tell it managed to analyze the data set correctly. So the text itself doesn't contain the intent, and the intent must be inferred from that text and must be constructed internally before we proceed to analyze the data set. So inside the agent, the intent is an internal representation of the purpose, and that includes desired outcomes, that includes constraints and boundaries, that includes preferences and trade-offs. that includes contextual validity. So comes directly from this idea comes directly from the classical agent theory, where it constructed on the BDI model, belief, desires, and intentions. And in this model, intentions are not wishes. So beliefs are what the agent knows, and desires what the agent wants, and intentions are what the agent commits to do. And so intent is the last construct here, is the intentions, what the agent commits to do. So clearly, we're not talking about wishes, we're not talking about beliefs, we're talking about the commitments as guiding action construct in this model. And so, clearly, as we have seen, intent understanding is not parsing the prompt text, it's not the classification or keyword extraction, but rather it is an inference under uncertainty. It's based on incomplete signals that are coming from the language, are coming from interaction history, are coming from the environment itself, are coming from the system goals or the feedback that the human or other systems or other agents are providing. So, in general, all of these elements are contributing to the intent as internal status here. And from these elements, uh, it must the agent must infer what objective is actually trying to achieve. But clearly, there's no commitment that this inference is 100% clear and is that's the ultimate intent. Usually, it always comes with ambiguity as a default status, but not as an error with the intent itself. Most of the time, intent understanding produces multiple possible intents, kind of options, confidence estimates for each option, and ranked interpretations. And with that, the good agent doesn't pretend that uncertainty doesn't exist, because it works in a probabilistic sphere environment where everything has a confidence level, has a rank, has multiple options, and then so uncertainty is always there for the agent, and it has either to act on the most likely intent or the most clear path, or to ask for clarification or direction from a supervisor, from a human, etc. So that decision itself is itself driven by intent understanding. So to make a decision between acting on the most likely intent or to ask for clarification, it is guided actually by or driven by the intent understanding. So this leads us to a crucial distinction here between what is a task and what is an intent. Task understanding answers the question, what action or what should I do next? But intent understanding asks or answers the question, why should I do anything at all? Or why not? What action, why this action should be taken or why not should be taken, and so on. So clearly we see that tasks are more temporal, they are temporary, while intent persists over time. We can see that tasks are generated by intent. And in general, in the pursuit of the objective or the goal, the intent understanding is decomposing into tasks along the way. And this is a real difference between reaction or reactive system and agentic system. So how Intent is represented in inside the agent. We have common representation patterns. Some systems use goal representations, like for example, produce a defensible statistical analysis suitable for peer review, etc. Like kind of such thing. Others rely heavily on constraints, setting boundaries like safety, ethics, policy, resources, and so on. Some systems encode intent in implicitly through utility or preference functions, but in most, I would say, in the modern agentic systems, in more serious agents, these approaches are or patterns are mainly combined, and the agent will use all of them at the same time into hierarchical intent structures. So it's not like one way or another, but these are kind of patterns that they can be used, but most of the times they are used at the same time. And this leads us to two types of the intent in general. One is static and the other is dynamic. And here is where we see static intent as in narrow settings, like when we have small tasks, well-defined tasks, and so on. But we know that real environment they are changing constantly. They're no static environment, and that really leads us to be prepared to act within like changing environment when where users change their minds, where new information appears, where the other inputs are coming in. So the agent has to be able to act with a dynamic intent that evolve over time, and which allows the agent to refine, revise, and probably abandon initial objectives or goals and reconstruct others, and so on. And this dynamic intent is essential for long horizon autonomy that allows the agent to continue functioning consistently in the same direction towards the goals that they are appearing refined, and so on and so forth. So, as we see here, in general, the intent is not acting as a passive information. It's kind of this dynamicity that we talked about is acting as a control system, and it controls the because it influences the tool selection. Which tool should I select, and why not? The planning depth, to which extent I should go deeper in my planning. Memory retrieval, what makes sense and what not makes sense. What should I store, what should I abandon in the memory. Termination conditions, when to stop, when to continue, what is success, what is failure. Clarification on the behavior, and knowing when to ask for help or ask for human intervention, or delegate a task, or escalate some conditions or tasks, and so on. So there are like plenty of control decisions inside the systems, as the intent actually influences inside the system. So the intent functions like a controller within the control system. And this explains why many agent failures are, in general, misdiagnosed, because they are mostly kind of referred to reasoning failures, which is not the case, but they are mostly intent failures. And they have different types in general, or risks that they are leading to those intent failures, like the intent drift, that is a gradual deviation from the initial goals, and most of the time this happens silently. Intent collapse when we oversimplify complex goals and reduce them to very simplistic proxies or objective or tasks. Misalignment when the agent is inferred intent, when the intent that the agent has inferred diverges from the users or the system's values. So we have kind of misalignment here between the both. And we see that this like type of problems are mostly architectural and not are prompt related. They are not diagnosis or reasoning problems. They are mostly related to the intent itself and must be designed for. Besides being as a controller, functioning as a controller within the control system, the intent coordinates the other internal components of the agentic system. For example, reasoning uses the intent as an optimization signal, and so it tells it as what constitutes a good plan. For example, what is a good plan and what is not. Also, it tells the memory system what is relevant at the moment to be recalled to the short-term memory, what is relevant in a longer horizon, and that should be stored in a longer term memory, long-term memory, and what is irrelevant at all, and that should be disposed completely from the memory system. So intent acts as, beside being the controller, is a coordinator for the other components. As so, because without intent, the reasoning becomes unbounded. The reasoning engine can go forever in reasoning without committing to what is the good plan. And memory system becomes noise because it stores everything, and we don't know what is relevant, what is irrelevant, what is valuable, what is not, and so on. So, and this is when we speak about a single agentic system. In real environments as well, we have multi-agent systems where the intent must be may be shared or negotiated between different agents. The intent could be conflicting between different agents, and there should be could be compete. There could be competing priorities or intentions, and or probably the agent or different agents are operating under hierarchical objectives. So at this point, the intent becomes a system level construct rather than just an internal state within the agent, because it starts as an internal state and it continues as one agent. But when we start in the multi agent systems, the intent as a shared space, it is a system level construct serving all of the agents together. So, as we see here, so far, intent is coming first in the agentic design because the frameworks, they don't give us the intent. Tools, they don't give us intent. Prompting certainly does not give us intent. So intent understanding is an architectural decision in our agentic system because everything else depends on it. And that's why we start with the intent understanding as a core component in agentic systems. And because we will build up everything that follows on top of it. So it's kind of the foundation of the agentic system, and the other components will come on top of it. So as our agent with intent understanding knows what it wants, under which constraints, and how to where to go as an ultimate objective. The next question would be, how does it decide what to do next? So it is in one status. Now it knows what it should achieve, but the next question is how to move from that status to the goal. And that what the reasoning engine comes for to set up that plan. And this is what we will see in the next component of the Agentic AI video series. We'll be talking about the reasoning engine and the other components in the coming videos. So, as usual, thank you for your time and attention, and see you in the next